Call to order the 887th meeting of the Board of Directors of MSAD 27. Roll call.
Keith Jandro Jr.
Here.
Kurt Susi.
Here.
Jake Terrio.
Here.
Toby Jandro.
Here.
Barry Ouellette. Gary Sibley.
Here.
Sarah Ashton. Yes.
Adjustments to the agenda.
Yeah, you will see it right on your agenda. I've added under items of business, new hire, add educational technician one-on-ones in plural at FKES.
Toby, are we adding an executive session?
I think we're swapping an executive session, changing the reason.
Okay.
As the board knows, we met with Valley Unified last week, and we're preparing to go into a think tank session, and I think the board, Gary and I discussed that the board should be, the attorney's gonna call in preparation of think tank and kind of explain where we need to go. Originally, we were under for another reason. I would be inclined to table the other reason and just focus on talking to the attorney about contract negotiations. So I make a motion to amend the agenda to reflect that we would be going into executive session to meet with the lawyer.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to know, when we go into executive session, is it simply the board members, or does the superintendent come in?
Tonight would just be the board members and our attorney.
I guess I'm beginning to struggle with that, in the sense that I think that we need to have more transparency, and I feel that to a certain degree, that collectively, I mean, as long as I've been on the board, this never took place, and now suddenly we're going into all these executive sessions, and the captain is not allowed to be on the board. And I guess I'm just having some issues with that.
Well, I think the issue is that the captain has 4 hats and not just 1 hat for SAD 27. So if we want to discuss things pertinent, just SAD 27.
This is a strategy meeting, Kirk, to talk about how we're gonna go into our next meeting with the think tank, to kind of isolate what things we're looking for, this is strategy for negotiation.
It puts Ben in a tough spot to be representing 3 and also the 4th. So.
Okay.
And I would rather back away from anything that deals with controversy between the 2 districts personally. So I'm fine to not be part of that executive session.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Any public participation? No public participation? Approval of minutes, meeting number 882. We actually have 5 minutes, 5 approvals. You want to do them as a group or individually?
Let's do them as a group. I think we've all had time to.
882 is the only one that was tabled last time, and Mr. Barry Ouellette had suggested to add some language about drafting a letter to lawyers, and then some information about your position on straw poll. That has been added to the minutes to reflect that. All the others you haven't seen yet.
It's just a small semantic issue. Toby and I, Gary and I didn't draft a letter. What happened is we reached out to the attorney to have him draft a letter.
Okay.
It's a minor issue. That's all.
Okay.
But with that correction, I got no issue with it. Is that okay with you, Gary?
Yeah.
Motion to accept. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Superintendent's report, school reintegration.
Not much to report in regards to the Department of Education and any updates from them. Just a couple They've updated their health advisory, the color code thing that they do every other Friday. And this past Friday was the first time that they put 2 districts in yellow. I believe Oxford was categorized from a green to a yellow because of rapid, significant increases in COVID-19. And then York County has been in yellow now for a month. And Androscoggin County remains on green, but is closely monitored. So it's not only about the case count when the department will act, it's also about the rapid spread and how that impacts things as well. With York County, the recent Sanford, Springvale area definitely has a concern for them. So we were wondering how that color code system works, and apparently it works on a couple of different matrix. So it's good to know that they are keeping an eye on that. Broadband and cellular connectivity survey has been put out again by the department. In response, I sent out a survey to our community today. I started with our staff and then posted it on social media. I'll do a school reach tomorrow so that it reaches more people. We're trying to locate addresses that do not have cellular service and or do not have broadband internet service. And the department is looking for that information so that they can earmark some of their CRF funds towards broadband connectivity. So we're hopeful that that's going to help some of our areas. So we're collecting that as we go, and I'll be sending that out to the department by this Friday. And then we had a second offer from the State Department to order protective equipment, PPE. So I believe Peter has completed that, that order for a second round of PPE from the state. And basically it's a spreadsheet that tells us what we're allotted, and Peter says, yes, we'll take it all, and so we'll wait for that shipment as well. Other than that, our school reintegration is good. Things are looking really good. We'll talk about enrollment in a second, but our remote learners are decreasing. So our in-classroom learners are increasing slowly, and we kind of expected that would happen. We're just about at the line where we're going to have to hold folks, to the line of where we said a quarter at a time. We're trying to be as flexible as we can, but with space being kind of challenging, we might have to hold that line. Second item I have is CRF updates.
Hey, Ben, before we get to that, how are the teachers doing?
Well, our high school teachers are great right now
Right.
because they're on potato harvest. The folks that I speak to at both levels, it's just different, and it's challenging because of how different it is. So those challenges, any kind of changes that we face, are magnetized, 10 times fold. So that's been a challenge. When you walk around the classrooms, the kids are great, and the teachers are reflecting the kids are great. Kids are resilient, and that's been very helpful. So a lot less battles that we have to fight about face masking and that type of thing, and social distancing. Those things, are just constant reminders, but it's a lot. It's a lot when you've got kids tripling in your classroom at 7:30, and then you have some duties, and everybody has more duties now because the lunch breaks are longer. So it's not a walk in the park, but we're hanging in there. Yep. CRF updates. We just got an announcement that our second round of CRF has been identified. This allocation is $744,316. So about $35,000 more than last time. Right now, all indications say that we have to spend again before December 31st, but every superintendent in the state is advocating to the DOE to please allow us to use those funds later, rather than trying to figure out in a month and a half or 2 months how we're going to spend these funds. The department has been advocating on the federal level on our behalf for that reason, because they are federal funds. The feds get to decide when the money needs to be spent by. So right now it's December 31st. We're earmarking some different projects to look at. I don't want to get everyone too excited with one project I'm looking at right now, but we're shooting for the stars as far as what's going to be really, really important in this district, not only for COVID-19, but also for longevity and for things that we need. So as soon as we get a little more information, and I'm waiting on a couple of different advice from the DOE, the approval process, to see if some of these ideas we have are going to go. I'll update you more at that time. We did have Peter, though, work today like crazy to secure some buses. So we do have a bus secured under CRF. We think that that's going to be important, again, for the social distancing aspect and updating our fleet. You can't find buses right now, so how Peter found buses today is amazing, and I know there was a lot of negotiation involved, so thank you, Peter, for that. But we'll update you more on the targeted funds. Right now, our principals are gathering ideas, and then we'll start to put that together and see where the funds can be best used. And if you board members have any ideas, please, by all means, forward them to me of what you think is really essential. Again, they have to be connected directly to COVID-19 somehow, or we have to be creative in how to connect that. So that's what I have for school reintegration updates. The second thing I have for you is October 1 enrollment projections, and you should have a handout for that. In the gray band at top, you have the total for each grade, and then you see the breakdown of how many students on-site versus remote. And then with grades 4, 5, and 6, of course, you see the Project Rise breakdown as well. They have their own remote learners. So overall, Fort Kent Elementary, we are down 44 students compared to last year. One attributing factor to that is the huge grade 7, that grade 6 last year that went to grade 7, our largest class at 84. So you have that 84 students that left Fort Kent Elementary, and then you had a pre-K class of 50 come in. So that right there is a big shift. There are some pre-K parents holding off on pre-K this year and looking to wait for next year, so those pre-K numbers are a little bit lower than anticipated. Then you can see at middle school, middle high school, an increase in students. Again, that 7th grade class is the attributing factor to that. And then I'll note to the bottom left, homeschool students were 21 plus on homeschool students this year. So a lot of our students have, 21 have moved to the homeschool program. So all of those things factor into our overall loss of about 28 students this year. It looks like is what the final count is going to be. Any questions on that? This is, of course, updated as of, you see 9/23. We'll know the official October 1 count when we do the official October 1 report, and then I'll give you an update at that time.
And what's the tuition for one student?
High school tuition from the state is set at 12,000? 10,000?
10,000.
And then elementary is around 8.
Moving on to items of business, old business. Employee assistance program.
So you have there a copy of the AEP agreement with Northern Maine Medical. It's been updated to reflect that it's between MSAD 27 and Northern Maine Medical and not Valley Unified.
So, there was, I reviewed this, and the total fee for this service shall vary depending upon the situation. Who dictates what the fee is gonna be?
It all depends on what the health insurance deductibles and co-pays are, and it's different for different staff. If you're a Teamster, you have that insurance that has different deductibles and co-pays versus Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So those are the fees that are unpredictable.
So they're still using their insurance.
Well, no, the fees that we're gonna pay are the deductible and co-pays.
So the staff are still utilizing their insurance.
Yes, they are.
We're just offsetting their fees and
Correct.
co-pays.
Yes, correct.
How much disclosure is there between the hospital and the district?
We're not looking at any disclosure regarding any private information. What's gonna happen is the employee is going to make payment of the copay, for example, and secure a receipt, and based upon that, we'll reimburse for up to 4 visits that copay. And that's it. We're basically signing this so that we have a priority service agreement, so our staff will receive priority consideration for appointments.
And there's nothing that would stop them from just going to see a therapist on their own?
Nothing
Okay.
at all. It's just a service we want to make available to them.
So the cost to the district is just paying is the copay?
Right.
For up to 4 visits per staff member at a maximum of $25 per visit for up to 4 visits, so a maximum of $100.
And we've earmarked this for CARES funds. It's actually not district funds.
We have a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Toby and Jake abstained. Valley Unified Education and Service Center.
And this is just a chance, you'll probably defer to your conversation later with your attorney, but just a chance to update you that there was a Valley Unified meeting last week, and very briefly, the Valley Unified Board discussed the letters that have been exchanged, highlighting the fact that on 33 in Madawaska's letter, it does refer to the interlocal agreement process of dispute resolution to settle any disputes that exist. And at that time, it was recommended per the letters that we reinstitute the think tank as the first step in that dispute resolution process, which is the negotiation period, where essentially you're supposed to negotiate the dispute and see if that can resolve what's happening. Both Toby and Gary at that time felt it was imperative that they come back to you and have discussions with all of you about those negotiations, and then how to move forward from those. So this is just an opportunity to discuss. I will also let you know that at that time, I did share a draft of alternate governing language. And again, this comes from me. It wasn't based on lawyer advice. It wasn't based on, I didn't even collaborate with anybody else. I just sat down and thought, what's a way to try to resolve this board governance at Valley Unified sooner than later, in a way that is both reflective of what each district contributes to Valley Unified, but also ensures that one district doesn't have representation only from one community, which was important to to 33 in Madawaska in their letter, but also the formula of Chicago share important to you guys. So try to just do something that appeases both sides. And if you want to discuss whether or not that is something that is to be considered, that's on the table as well.
Ben, I have some questions from an earlier email that you had sent out.
Sure.
Do you, and you might not have the answers, but what happens if we fail to meet the December 31st deadline?
I requested from the Commissioner's office in writing
Mm-hmm.
that December 31st is in fact the deadline, because we don't get things in writing.
Yeah.
And finally, this weekend, actually on Saturday, Commissioner Minkin did write back, and she did copy in the State Board of Education that they will be issuing us a letter. I'm just trying to go back to make sure that I... No, I got it right here. We met with the State Board of Education Construction Committee yesterday, so this would have been Friday, and they've agreed that a formal letter is appropriate to confirm the deadline. The first two bullets in your message below will be addressed in that letter. So what I had requested was the deadline, and that if two SAUs want to continue without the third, will that kill the project? And essentially, the answer to that was yes. So the letter will address those two things. And then regarding the FEDA's funds, this will be addressed in a separate communication from our school finance team. So we'll just wait for those communications to come through. But to get back to your point, if we do not make the December 31st date, and that's just to confirm that we're going to enter into an RSU agreement with the other two. Commissioner Macon was very direct that they want to spend money now and construct, so somebody will be constructing. It just won't be us. And we did receive word that the Dexter Region did receive confirmation that they are now on the approved list. I think after Holton lost their project, they were given the go-ahead with their project.
And you had said in that email about the FEDA's 3 money potentially going away, and this is what they're gonna...
That's what they're gonna write from the finance team. The commissioner told Ms. Diana and I that they're tightening their belts. Each department has been asked to cut 10.4%, and FEDA's funding might be on the table. Giselle and I did plead that we are very far down this road, and if construction money, at the very least, construction money is taken away, or the engineering, it's all but killed the project. So she did admit that, oh yes, your project is funded for construction, for engineering that way, so she needed to talk a little bit more to figure out those funds. I get a sense that the sooner we can commit to the better chance we have of holding onto that money, because I don't know how the new year is going to look at the department.
Isn't the fiscal year for the state based on July? Right?
I don't know. I think
I just think a 31st date is a little strong, personally.
we didn't get the sense it was up for negotiation. In fact, I think we had to plead to at least have that much time.
I think there's an intention for those funds to go elsewhere if this fails, and she mentioned a couple of things, so.
Okay. I know she talked about coming up here. Is she planning on coming up at some point, or?
When Giselle and I went, she says, I have every intention to go up there, just, COVID happened and busy and whatever, so it wasn't offered again. We can request and see if that helps, I can't, I don't know if that will.
Just a point of clarification on our meeting at Valley Unified. I made a point of saying that, okay, so we sent our letter saying that we had these concerns, and the response we got from the other two schools was that we had triggered the, what was it called?
The interlocal agreement.
Dispute resolution.
Dispute, that it was, that they were considering our letter to be a, I'm looking for it, I'm sorry. Anyway, triggering event.
Written notice of dispute.
It's a written notice of dispute. And I took issue with the fact that we were being told what our letter was by the two other districts, given the nature of our complaint, that we were not really having a lot of self-control, and they told us, well, that letter is a formal letter of commencing dispute, it's all on you. It doesn't help. So basically forcing us into a position of having to pay for everything and take care of everything, even though we just sent a letter saying we've got an issue. So I don't think we conceded in the meeting. I think we agreed that we would meet with our board, and we agreed that going to the think tank would be a good thing. But we didn't concede that we had triggered anything in there. I don't think we have to, and maybe they can file a formal letter of complaint on us for not triggering it, and we can just do that all day. But I think it's important that Gary and I both agreed that it was important to go to the think tank and at least give it a try. Whether or not we agree on the procedure or where we are in the process, I think we agreed to do that. Without conceding anything else. That was my position. I think Gary reflected that. Yeah. So that's just a little extra. It was a really quiet meeting, but a lot happened.
These two were written by lawyers.
Which one?
These two were written by lawyers.
Now, that's the question, the same lawyer, right?
The same lawyer?
Because it was really funny to see one person write the same letter what was it? To write the same letter twice using different words. It's pretty, yeah. Because it's Kate Grossman that's working with both of them, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Keith, do you have anything?
Well, as far as the regional service center and an RSU is concerned, if we were to become an RSU, 7 to 12 RSU, would that basically eliminate the Valley Unified Educational Service Center? And would the RSU take the place of it as far as whatever's left to manage or administer?
So we would not want to eliminate the Valley Unified Education Service Center just because under that law, we get some benefits for it, so we get some subsidies for it. But what I have drafted in my draft language, Keith, if you look at the last item, item K, upon board approval of 712 regional school unit, the board of directors elected to govern the RSU shall also serve as the Valley Unified Education Service Center board of directors. So essentially, that RSU board would become the Valley Unified board. The only thing at that time would be the business of Valley Unified would be very, very limited. It's going to be just specific to the shared services, which essentially will be your superintendent, your business managers, those things. So very little business to do under Valley Unified.
So basically you're talking about not streamlining because there's a financial benefit to remaining an educational service
So
center.
that's one reason, but also the other reason is the wonderful work that we've done over the past 5 years of sharing services that we may not want to undo. So there's that as well.
Does that realign the proportionate voting to what you're talking about here, the 5, 2, and 3?
When you do an RSU, is that what you're doing? That's dictated under the RSU Formation Language. So it has to be the one person, one vote rule. So you're going to look at your population of each community, and you're going to assign
It's going to be
membership based on that.
Shouldn't this language be reflective of that
So,
in your draft preliminary starting point?
well, what's difficult is if we want to wait for an RSU to be formed, then you don't get to change your governance of Valley Unified until that happens. That could be 2 years from now.
Yeah, but since the law is written for RSUs, couldn't we apply that law to what we're doing right now? So we're functioning as an RSU in all but name?
It's a long process. You can't look at a template and say this is what it's going to be. It's a process that's, you're going to assign a team together, and it's a whole negotiation process that's involved with that.
I understand, I don't understand it fully, of course. I'm just curious about the makeup of the board. Like, isn't there well-defined language for what constitutes people who serve on an RSU board as far as directors?
I don't have that. And
Okay. I think that would be a fair starting point to look at this, what you've shared with us.
The purpose of this language is to get this board something sooner than later, because I know that you are currently not comfortable with any motion from Valley Unified, knowing that you have a 1/3 share of the vote. So that was the purpose of this, to modify the current language without rewriting the whole entire thing.
Any other comments, questions? We'll move on to new business then, Ben.
We do have a resignation. I believe that's in your packet. Good morning, Mr. Sirwa. I'm writing this letter to regretfully turn in my resignation as an Ed Tech 3 academic interventionist. I made this decision not because I am not happy with my role in helping students academically, but I feel my age and some recent health concerns would be better for my safety and well-being. We are living in such uncertain times, so I really needed to weigh this decision out carefully. I did call the Maine State Retirement this week, and we decided on October 30 as my final date of employment. This will be the date that I'll be using to fill out the necessary paperwork and be signed by my employer. It would also give you ample time to find a replacement. Sylvie Dow, my co-teacher, is already aware and is supportive of this decision, although she's a bit concerned of finding an individual with English teaching background. Thank you for allowing me for the past 2 years to return to a less rigorous teaching schedule. I have appreciated this opportunity to transition to full retirement. I do plan on coming back when it's safer to do so as a substitute. Sincerely, Monica Sear. So it's actually a re-retirement for Monica. I would need a motion to accept.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. No transfers, new hires?
In your packet, you should have a new hire letter from Stacy. And Stacy interviewed Olivia Ecker for the CHIPPY Early Childhood Assistant. She has experience working in early childhood as an employee. She has limited experience working in early childhood as an employee, but she does have experience as a student in the early childhood program at the SJVTC program. She's also attending classes for early childhood. So the recommendation is to hire Olivia Ecker.
I think it's also important to note that Olivia was also earned Student of the Year at the Central Valley Tech Center. I mean, that's and she was in the early childhood program.
Yep.
We have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
And then the adjustment to the agenda, just this morning, Joe notified me that her, along with Marion and Kathy Daigle, interviewed candidates for 2 Ed Tech one-on-one positions in the district. They're recommending Catherine Thornes and Danielle Daigle. Catherine has her degree in early childhood, She has a great understanding of children with disabilities. She also has 2 children of her own at Fort Ken Elementary. And Danielle attended the early childhood program at St. John Valley Tech as well, and she was in high school, and the interview team felt that she would be a great asset to the program. So the motion is to approve Catherine Thornes and Danielle Daigle as educational technician 1-on-1s.
So moved.
A second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
So if your list of current openings, that Ed Tech 1-on-1s are now filled, so you see the other positions that are still vacant.
District LAU.
So, your LAO plan is, your plan for, what you're going to do with, children who have English, for English learners in the district. Jill Kelly worked on this revised language for the LAO plan. And you can see in your packet, you have the old one, compared to the new one. Sylvia? No, Jill?
It's actually Sylvia, state helper updated.
Okay, so Sylvia did work on this. Sylvia is our ELL instructor, so this plan just needs to be part of our comprehensive education plan. So it's just those updates that we need to make sure that we're always providing the most up-to-date education for our learners.
Kudos to you, Jill. You did a nice job putting it together.
It was Sylvia. All of you.
It was, I mean, it's kind of boring reading and stuff, but I read the whole thing.
So kudos to Sylvia.
Kudos to somebody.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
That was a dry read for.
Need a motion to enter executive?
This executive now would be 1 MRSA 4056E.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?